Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into a world that, I'll be honest, completely blew my mind when I first learned about it. Ancient hero cults.
Yeah, it's a bit more than just stories about Hercules, right?
Way more. We're going beyond the myths and legends, looking at how these beliefs played out in real life.
And our source material is really unique, an academic article originally in Turkish.
Wow, so we're getting the real scholarly deep dive here. What kind of stuff does this article cover?
It's not just about larger-than-life figures like Achilles. It's about everyday people in ancient Greece and Thrace, how they connected with their heroes.
You're saying these cults weren't just like campfire stories, they actually affected people's lives.
Absolutely. Politics, warfare, religion, even daily life. They influenced everything. You could even say they shaped the landscape.
Whoa, okay, hold on. Let's back up a sec. Before we get into all that, what even is a hero in this context? The word seems simple enough.
You'd think so. But the word hero might be older than we realize. Older than Homer, even. We see it on Linear B tablets, maybe linked to the goddess Hera.
Hera, like the wife of Zeus. How's that connection work?
Well, early on, hero could have meant something like a seasonal man tied to Hera and nature's cycles. So, not warriors yet, but more. Embodiments of the natural world.
Huh. That's so different from how we think of heroes today.
It is. And get this, scholars debate how the meaning evolved. You have Walter Burkert, who thinks the Hera connection is key. Then there's I. Morris, emphasizing the seasonal aspect. J. O'Brien has his own take too. It shows you how complex this concept was.
So we've got this word that starts with nature and then becomes something much bigger. What happened in between?
The meaning shifted from husband of the lady that's still referencing Hera to encompassing a whole race of demigods, the Heracles, Perseus, Jason types. But even then, there was no single definition.
Yeah, I guess different people would have different ideas of what makes a hero, right?
Right. Even Homer and Hesiod saw it differently. For Homer, heroes were warriors, bravery, skill in battle. But Hesiod, he called them a race of iron, more about strength, resilience.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these different ideas could play out in real life. But how did people actually honor these heroes? Was it just stories, or was there more to it?
Oh, there was definitely more. The physical remains of heroes were key.
You mean like bones and relics? That's kind of morbid, isn't it?
To us, maybe. But for them, those remains were a direct link to the hero, a way to tap into their power. We have evidence of remains in ancient cemeteries, some accidental finds, some deliberate reburials for veneration, and sometimes they'd actually search for remains to treat as sacred relics.
So they'd collect these relics to almost channel the hero or something.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And it's not just a Greek or Thracian thing. Christianity does this too, with saints' relics. Shows you some beliefs just transcend time and cultures.
Wow, that's a crazy connection. Makes you think about how powerful those beliefs were. But let's stick with the ancient world for now. Tell me about this Rhesus, the Thracian king.
Ah, Rhesus. He's a perfect example of how they blurred the lines between hero and supernatural being. Even before his death, he was considered a demon.
A demon? Not like the evil things, right? What did that mean back then?
More like a powerful spirit. He was already extraordinary. And then he gets slain at Troy, but his story doesn't end there.
Okay, there's gotta be more to it than just getting killed. What happens?
His mother, a muse, goddess of art and inspiration, takes his body to a silver-rich cave on Mount Pangan.
Hold on. His mom was a goddess. Okay, this is getting epic. What's in the cave?
He becomes a prophet of Dionysus. Right there, in the cave.
Dionysus. Wine, parties, right? Interesting choice for a prophet. So this cave, it's not just random.
Nope. It ties his hero cult to a specific place, specific rituals. This is where beliefs start shaping the real world, the landscape itself.
Not just stories, but actions. I'm seeing how this could tie into founding cities, power struggles that you mentioned earlier.
You're getting it. And there's another detail from Philostratus, a later writer. He describes Rhesus living on, but in a mountain sanctuary, receiving animal sacrifices.
Animal sacrifices? Whoa, that's intense. Was that common in hero cults?
It was. Especially wild animals. Philostratus even says wild boars and deer would willingly go to Rhesus's altar. Shows the reverence, the belief in his enduring power. And we find archaeological evidence of this, so it wasn't just made up.
Wild animals just offering themselves. That's a powerful image. So we're seeing how hero cults aren't just about individual figures, they're tied into nature too.
Exactly. And Rhesus' story leads us to a real city. Amphipolis.
You mentioned that before. A whole city because of a hero. Okay, I need to hear this.
Athenian colonists, led by Hagnon, got instructions from the Delphic oracle. bring Rhesus's bones from Troy, rebury them in his homeland. Not just symbolic, this was political.
They're using the bones to legitimize their claim on the land. Pretty smart move, actually.
Oh, it was brilliant. By connecting themselves to Rhesus, they're tapping into his power, integrating with the locals, saying, we're here to stay. Hero cults weren't just personal belief, they were strategic.
It makes you wonder how many other cities were founded this way, using heroes for authority.
Fascinating, right? Rhesus's story isn't unique, and it shows how intertwined myth, religion, and politics were back then.
So we've got this Thracian king, his bones used to found a Greek city. Any other Thracian heroes who were big in these cults?
There is one, but his story takes a darker turn. Let's talk about Orpheus.
Orpheus, the one who went to the underworld for his love. That's a powerful story. What's the dark part?
Well, in this context, he meets a brutal end. Thracian women dismember him, and it's his body parts that become venerated.
Whoa, that's gruesome. Instead of a tomb, they focus on his parts. What does that say about their beliefs?
It shows the power of the hero cult. Even in death, dismembered, he mattered. Conan, a mythographer, says Orpheus's head was buried under a mound, and we have archaeology that backs this up. The structure under Mound 7 at the Necropolis seems to fit the accounts.
Whoa, mythology meeting archaeology, that's a direct link.
It is. These beliefs weren't just ideas, they shaped how people acted. And despite the violence, Orpheus's remains get special treatment. The mound becomes a Heroon, basically, a hero shrine.
So even in pieces, he's powerful. And a place like that could really shape a community's identity, their link to the past.
Exactly. Shows the lasting power of these heroes, the beliefs around them, their points of connection across generations.
We have Rhesus and Orpheus, these fascinating Thracian figures. What about hero cults in Greece itself? Were they doing similar things?
There's some amazing parallels. Both regions have Heroons, often in necropolises, big cemeteries, and complex burial rituals in both.
So it wasn't just random, there were common threads across cultures.
Right, and it's not just the where. Sacrifices of horses, birds, dogs appear in both. Ritual feasting, possible water-based initiations, gives you a picture of how they connected with these heroes.
Like a whole tapestry of beliefs and rituals woven together across regions.
That's it. And it challenges the idea that Greek and Thracian practices were totally separate. Lots of cultural exchange going on.
Okay, so these cults were widespread, deep-rooted. Why'd they decline? What happened?
Great question. Makes us think about the bigger changes happening back then. Remember Hagnon, who used Rhesus's bones for his authority in Amphipolis?
Yeah, smart move. What about his hero cult?
When the Spartan general Brasidas took the city, things changed. Brasidas becomes the honored hero after his death. Hagnon's cult suppressed. They even destroyed his tomb Heroon.
Wow, talk about a reversal. The conqueror's hero replaces the conquered's, rewriting history with hero cults.
You got it. Shows how power could manipulate those beliefs. And it wasn't always conquest. Sometimes a hero failed to protect a region, or beliefs just changed over time. Nothing stays the same forever.
Even the strongest beliefs are adaptable. Man, this has been eye-opening. We've covered so much. Maybe it's time to move on to our final part, see what other insights we can gain from these ancient practices. Okay, so we've got this larger-than-life Thracian king, Rhesus, dies at Troy, but his story keeps going. Where's the hero part come in?
That's where it gets interesting. His death isn't the end. His mother takes his body to a cave on Mount Pangion.
Just any cave? Or is there something special about it?
Special and silver rich. And his mother, she's a muse. You know, goddess of art, inspiration.
Hold on, back up. His mom was a goddess. This is wild. So what happens in the cave? Does he come back to life?
Not exactly. He becomes a prophet of Dionysus. Right there in that cave.
Dionysus.
Regal.
God of wine and revelry. That's a unique career path, even for a resurrected hero.
It's not just any random cave either. It connects his hero cult to a specific place, specific rituals, beliefs starting to shape the actual landscape.
It's not just stories anymore. I'm seeing how this could tie into founding cities, power struggles. You mentioned that earlier.
You're on the right track. And get this, there's more to Rhesus's story. A later writer, Philostratus, he describes him living on in a mountain sanctuary, and he's receiving animal sacrifices.
Animal sacrifices, that sounds intense. How common was that in hero cults?
It was pretty common, especially wild animals.
Yeah.
Philostratus even says, wild boars, deer, they'd willingly go to Rhesus's altar to be sacrificed. Imagine that.
Wild animals just lining up. That's a powerful image, I gotta say.
Shows you the level of reverence, right? The belief in his power, even after death. We have archaeology backing this up, so it wasn't just made up stuff.
It's one thing to sacrifice animals, but for them to just offer themselves, That's wild. So hero cults aren't just about individual heroes, they're about nature too.
You're getting it. They're all connected. And Rhesus's story leads us to a real city, Amphipolis.
You've mentioned that a couple times. A whole city founded because of this hero. Okay, now I really need the story.
So you've got Athenian colonists led by Hagnon. They consult the Delphic oracle, right?
Yep.
And they get their instructions. Bring Rhesus's bones from Troy. Rebury them in his homeland. Not just a symbolic gesture.
It's about ownership, claiming the land, showing they belong there. Pretty clever when you think about it.
Brilliant strategy. By connecting to Rhesus, they're claiming his power, integrating with the locals, saying, we're not going anywhere. Hero cults, they were political tools too.
I'm starting to see how many layers there are to this. It makes you think, how many other cities were founded this way, using heroes to establish authority?
It's a great question to ponder. Rhesus's story shows how intertwined everything was back then. Myth, religion, politics.
All tangled up together. So we have this Thracian king, used to found a Greek city. Any other Thracian heroes who were big in these cults?
There is one, famous, but his story's a bit darker. Orpheus.
Orpheus, I remember the myth. Went to the underworld for his love, Eurydice. Tragic, romantic. What's the dark side?
Well, for hero cults, Orpheus has a brutal ending. Thracian women, they dismember him. And it's his body parts that become objects of veneration.
Okay, hold up. Instead of a tomb, a shrine, they focus on his parts. That's different.
It tells you something about the hero cult's power. Even dead in pieces, he mattered. There's a mythographer, Conon. He says Orpheus's head was buried under a mound.
Just his head. Okay, now this is getting weird.
And get this, we might have archaeological evidence for it. There's a structure under Mound 7 at the Eye Necropolis. Seems to fit the accounts.
Mythology meeting archaeology. That's an incredible connection.
It is. Shows how those beliefs shaped what people did, how they built things. And even though it's gruesome, Orpheus's remains get special treatment. The mound becomes a Heroon, a shrine specifically for him.
Even in pieces, he's a focal point. And a place like that, it could really define a whole community, their connection to the past.
Exactly. Those heroes, the beliefs around them, they're powerful, lasting things, connecting people across time.
We have Rhesus, Orpheus, these fascinating Thracian examples. What about hero cults in Greece itself? Did they do things similarly?
Oh yeah, there are some amazing similarities.
Yeah.
Both regions have Heroons, often located in necropolises, big cemeteries basically,
Okay.
and complex burial rituals in both too.
So it wasn't just random stuff, there are patterns here across cultures.
Absolutely, and it goes beyond location. Sacrifices horses, birds, dogs. We see those in both Greek and Thracian cults. Ritual feasts, maybe even water-based initiations.
It's like a whole world of beliefs and rituals connected across different regions.
That's a great way to put it. And it challenges that simple idea of Greek versus Thracian. They were influencing each other, exchanging ideas.
So much mixing and mingling going on. Okay, if these hero cults were so widespread, so ingrained, why'd they eventually fade away? What happened?
But it's a key question. Makes us look at the bigger picture of what was changing back then. Remember Hagnon, who used Rhesus's bones to establish his authority in Amphipolis?
Yeah, the savvy political move.
Whack.
What became of his hero cult?
Things shifted dramatically when the Sartan general Brasidas captured the city. Brasidas, he's honored as a hero after his death. Hagnon, his cult is suppressed. They even destroy his tomb Heroon.
Wow, talk about a power shift. The conqueror's hero replaces the conquered's. History being rewritten through hero cults.
Exactly. Shows how power could twist those beliefs. And it wasn't always about conquest. Sometimes a hero might fail to protect their people, or beliefs could just change over time. Nothing stays fixed forever.
Even the most deeply held beliefs can change. This is mind-blowing stuff. We've covered so much already. Maybe it's time to shift gears to our last part and see what final insights we can uncover from these ancient practices. Man, this whole hero cult thing, it's deeper than I ever imagined. From what hero even means to those wild stories about Rhesus, Orpheus, and how it all tied into real-world stuff, politics, even founding cities. It's not just mythology, is it?
Not at all. It's a window into how these ancient societies worked, how they thought. And this last part, let's zoom out a bit. What can we learn about them from this?
Okay, yeah, good point. It's like, oh, these cults were a way to connect with their history, their ancestors almost, their identity.
Exactly. Remember that shift in the meaning of hero from those nature connections to basically the ideals of the city-state.
Yeah, that was big, mirroring those changes happening in ancient Greece.
And it shows how hero cults could legitimize a whole new social order. Veneration of heroes becomes a way for rulers to claim connection to the past, even a divine right to rule.
Like building a myth around their power. Clever.
Very clever. And it wasn't just about politics. Hero cults also help people deal with death, loss, all that uncertainty in life.
I see that. By honoring heroes, they're saying death isn't really the end. Those figures live on, still have power. Kind of comforting in a way.
It is. Creates a sense of continuity, bridging that gap between the living and the dead. And that continuity, it extends to the whole community. Shared identity, beliefs, practices, it binds them together.
So it's bigger than just the individual hero. It's about the whole community's memory, their identity.
Exactly. And that shared memory, it's powerful stuff. Shapes their norms, values, alliances, even how they fight wars.
Mind-blowing how beliefs about people who may not have even existed could shape so much real-world stuff.
This shows you the power of stories, of what we choose to believe. History isn't just facts and dates, it's those stories we tell, the beliefs we hold, and how they shape our whole worldview.
Man, this deep dive, packed with surprises. If there's one thing you want listeners to take away, what would it be?
I'd say, these hero cults, they weren't just superstitions. It was a complex system of belief, served real purposes, social, political, psychological, helped people understand their world, their place in it, find meaning.
That's well put. And for anyone listening thinking, okay, ancient history, so what? What's a final thought to leave them with?
I'd challenge them to think, if you could choose a hero from history to be venerated, who would it be and why? What makes someone worthy of that kind of honor? What values do they embody that inspire you?
That's a great challenge. Makes you think about what hero even means, not just back then, but now. Thanks for joining us on this epic journey into the world of ancient heroes. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.